So now we can see the unit one, that is data files and Dbms. In that we can see the introduction. In that introduction, that is data and files are presented, as well as which operations files are mainly presented here, why it is used the Dbms, what is their actual use, whenever that Dbms is mostly important, as well as what kind of types are there. So all that things we can see here. See first overview of that Dbms. Data means what? Data means what? Actual information or raw data. For example, alphabet numbers. Take example of our mobile phone. In our mobile phone, we can take the number of persons' numbers, contact number. That contact number is our actual data. So we all that save data in our mobile phone, save with a specific name. That name is our actual information. That number and name is our actual data. So data is a collection of facts and figures. It is also called as an object also. So that data can be processed to create a useful information. See here, data is processing. After that data is completely processing, we can get the information. For example, in the shop, we can purchase some items. Before you make a list of items, you want to purchase that. Means that item list contains the name and quantity. That name and quantity is an actual data. Here is an example of here. As well as data is mainly distinguished from programs in a computer. We can define a program as a set of instructions as well as perform a particular task for a computer also. So we can take an example of our C language or a C program. We can calculate the sum of two numbers. The program contains mainly the C language instructions. Means what the instruction as a data. But whatever the numbers we want to provide, that means that program is calculate the sum as a data. Means what? In Dbms, mainly the data, information and programs. Data is our raw information. Information means our process data, and program means it is a set of instructions. Then next we can see the files. Files means what? The data means use the file to save the data. In general, we can keep our documents or our papers in some folder or files. Same as we can, the same manner we can store our computer data in a file. Means our file of computer where the data will be safe and secure. So we can use file to save our data. Here, program files store the programs where the text file is store the text. To take computer a file means nothing more than series of bytes. In a software, we can manipulate or notes the structure of a file. Take an example of Dbms file or a database files. We can make up of series of records where the word processing files means our documents made up of a continuous flow of text. So we can perform the operations on that file. What kind of operations? Just like retry, update. Retry is mainly used to get the contents of that file. or get information of that file. So we want to extract the data from file as a reading purpose. Means we can perform the retrieval operations on the file. So the retrieval operation do not change the content of data, means in that file, only locate the records in a file. So in the database management system, the complete set of information is called as records. So we can store records as for the example, book name, issue date, and date. Means that book date number. So we can store the record as a book name, issuing date, or some purchasing date or amount of purchase. On that columns, means in that columns we can store the records. So now continue, we can update our application. Just like the find, read next, or modify, as well as insert and delete. All that operations can also perform in that file. So now we can see, first of all, the introduction to database. What is a database? Database is, it is and mainly software system or the software designed to store, retrieve, and define as well as manage the data in a database. So there will be the mainly four types of database management system that are relational database management system, object-oriented database management system, as well as hierarchical and network also. So take an example of Dbms here. The Dbms manages the incoming data, means it can be organized and provide the ways for a data to be modified or extracted by users, and another programs also. So what are their examples? Just like the MySQL, as well as Microsoft Access or FileMaker, relational database management system, and Oracle also. So the database is an application that manages the data and allows fast storage and retrieving of data. So that, so it is a piece of software that designed to make a different database operations easier. So next, the components of database. Which components or which elements are important in there? First of all, the data items, then their relationship, then constraints and schema. So what is data item? Data item is actually the attribute of an entity which is represented by a data item. For example, suppose there is a database, it's a customer account, and it is a database contains the attributes just like the customer name. So attributes means what? That customer contains a number of things, just like customer name, customer ID, or customer address, as well as customer contact number. All that things are their attributes. So there is a customer account is our entity. So what are their attributes? See here, the customer name, customer ID, customer address, and balance, as well as account type is also there. So the data item is designed a name in order to refer, means it is, so it in storage and retrieval and processing also. Relationships means what? It is represent the correspondence between the various data elements, just like many to one, one to many, one to one, and many to many. One-to-one means what? One customer has the only one account. Many-to-many means what? The many customers can purchase the many data items. Constraints means what? The predict that define the correct data base states. Means another word we can say the constraints means what? The actual database are rules that controls the values allowed to columns and also enforces that integrity between columns and tables also. For example, we can check the constraints in the columns or allow in that column we can check all that things. See, the basic terms related to database is what? The entity, attributes, domain, instances, records. See here, it is a customer table. In that customer table, there is a number of attributes just like customer name, ID, address, and balance. Tuples or records. Tuples means what? The actual record. It can be stored in that in the particular attribute. So in their entity is customer, attributes is all that rows, and domains means customer name. That domain of customer name means all that names just like Jyoti, Sarika, and Manisha. Records means that record is mainly save here in a row wise. So now we can see first the definition of DBMS. Why it is used? The DBMS is a collection of programs or we can say a software that enables me store, modify and extract the information from a database, or DBMS is a software we can use to design a system in a maintaining and utilizing large collection of data in a database. Why it is used? Because store the data in a appropriate manner as well as actually store the data in a table format. So it will be easily maintained and search the data. So that DBMS is accept the request from a uh, data from the application program and instruct the operating system to transfer the appropriate data also. So the transaction management means that DBMS provides the following file series, which is conventional file system does not provide, which are what? The concurrency control, transaction management, recovery management, security, and language interface also. So it is an important question here. Difference between the file system and DBMS. So what are the actual main difference between the file system and DBMS? First is representing the complex relations means among that data is responsible in DBMS, not in a file system, as well as recovery. Recovery and backup can be done in a DBMS. In a file system, it cannot be done in as accurately. Next, third one is multiple user can be interfaces allowed in DBMS, but in file system it is not allowed. Next is data redundancy. It is removed in DBMS as well as authorized access in a DBMS can easily restricted, and therefore the data is database are more secure compared to data in a files, and enforcing the integrity constraints in a DBMS also. So it is mainly provide the storage structured and efficient query processing. What are the drawbacks of file system? First one is the data redundancy and inconsistency. Why it is? Because the data, for example, a student, in that student means we can retrieve, or the data of that one student is appears in a two files. So we can known as the redundancy. So that redundancy is mainly causes the higher storage. This situation can also the result in that data inconsistency means the two files may contain the different data of same student. So the next drawback is difficulty in accessing data. Why it is? Because it is not easy to retrieve the information by using the conventional file processing system. It is convenient and efficient information to retrieve it almost impossible using the conventional file processing system. So the third one is data isolation and integrity problems also. Next one is atomicity problem. Why atomicity problem? Because in that file processing system, it is difficult to atomicity. Concurrent access, automatics, and security problems also. Next will be the applications of DBMS. In which sector or which multiple resources are mainly applications of DBMS are mainly used. The DBMS applications in use is mainly the banking sector as well as airlines, university, in the finance sector also. It is also mainly important in a manufacturing, human resources, or a web-based services. Why web-based services? Because for a taking the web users feedback, responses, responses as well as the resource sharing, online shopping, etc. In HR system. Why HR system? Because the information about that employees as well as salaries and payroll taxes and their benefits to generate for the generation of paychecks. Next will be the abstraction levels. Abstraction levels is mainly in a three-level architecture. That is the data abstraction. So what is data abstraction? Data abstractions means what actually? In the major aims of DBMS to provide user with abstract the view of data. Means that data is abstraction heights It is the certain details. So how the data is stored and maintained in the DBMS. So the most the database users are not computer trained. Means that developers is mainly hide the complexity through the several levels of abstractions. Means to remove the complexity in our mind. Means that manufacture, for example, the car manufacturer, how many engineers made up to design this car, or who did manufacture the car. Okay, in that similarly, the DBMS hides the certain data in the database from the different users. See here, the three levels of data abstractions are there, which are three layers. First one is physical, second logical, and last one is external level or a view level. That logical level is the conceptual schema. Physical level means physical schema. It is mainly the internal level. Okay, and it is mainly connected to that this. Physical or internal level means what? It is the lowest level of abstraction. Which it is mainly describe how data is actually stored, and it is also describe the complex low level data structured in detail. Means that it is mainly specify the additional storage details for data in database. Means it is summarize how the relation described in the conceptual schema are actually stored in the secondary storage device such as disk, tapes. So the process of arriving at a good physical schema, it is called as the physical database design. Next is conceptual level or a logical level. Means what it describes what data are mainly stored in the DBMS or a database, and what relations exist among those data. Means describe the entire database in the term of retrievably similar structured. So it is conceptual schema. Sometimes it is also called as a logical also. Means it is mainly describe store the data in terms of data model of a DBMS. Means their relational DBMS, their conceptual schema describe the relations that are stored in the DBMS. For example of college stream or a university database. In that university or a college system, there will be number of students, faculty, courses are available. Okay. Next is third one is view or a external level. That is called as an external schema. Means what? It is the highest level of abstraction. We describe only the part of database. Means that users view of database. This level describes that the part of database that is relevant to each other. Means what? The external schema is only allows the data access as a customized, or it is an authorized. So at the level of individual users or a group of users, any given database has exactly one conceptual schema and one physical schema, because it is just as a one set of stored relations. Means many to one or one to one, only that relationships are mainly used here. Next is database users. So what are the different types of users are presented here, or as in the database environment? See that application programmer, native user, and end user, as well as sophisticated and database administrator. So all that five are database users. So what is the actual work of application programmer. So that application programmer is a person who is responsible for implementing the required functionality. Means that programmers can be specify or specify the system front end and back end, as well as they can specify the actual functioning of that system, or that specific software also. What are the end users? End users are those persons who is interact with applications directly. Means they are responsible to insert, delete, and update data in the database. They get information from a system when required the different type of end users, which are as follows. First one is the native users. Native users means what? Those users who do not have any technical knowledge about that system. Means they don't have any technical knowledge about that the DBMS. They can use the database, use the application program by using the simple user interface. They perform all operations by using a simple commands, menu buttons, or provides the user interface also. So next is sophisticated user. What is sophisticated user? That users who are familiar with structure of database and facilities of DBMS. Such users can use a query language such as the SQL and perform the required operations on a database. So that sophisticated users can also write the application program. Next one is database administrator. So what is the database administrator? It is responsible for managing the whole database system. Means he can design, create, and maintain the database. He manage the users who can access this database controls and control the integrity issues. He also monitors the performance of a system and make the change in a system as when required. What is DDL and DVL? DML. DDL means the data definition language and DML means the data manipulation language. So DDL is mainly used to create and destroy the database as well as database objects also. So that database administration will primarily use these commands during the setup and renewal phases of a database projects. So DDL statements are mainly used to define the database structure or schemas. So that DDL is mainly used to create, alter, drop, truncate, comment, and rename also. The truncate means what? They remove the all records from a table and including the all spaces located for records and remove it also. So DML means the data manipulation language. It is mainly used to change the data in the database tables, as well as instructions of DML are well known for everyone, just like insert, update, and delete. So that data manipulation language are mainly used for managing the data within the schema. means that object that is the data within database. So what are that commands? Just like select. Select is mainly used to retrieve the data from database. Insert. Insert is mainly used to insert data into table. Update is used to update the existing data. Delete is mainly used to delete the all records from a table or a space for records remains. Call is mainly used to call a PLSQL or a Java subprogram also. There are mainly the two types of DML commands that are mainly the procedural and non-procedural DML. Procedural DML means what? It allows the users, means that is the programmers, to specify what data is needed and how it is obtained. As well as this type of DML, it is typically retrieve the individual records for the database, and the process of each separated means that programmers use the low level DML. For example, is relational algebra. Non-procedural DML means what? It is a high level. It is high level or a non-procedure DML allows user to specify what data is required without specifying how it is obtained. Means it is a high level DML statement. Either it is entered interactively for a terminal. Means what? It is embedded in a general purpose programming language. Means that end user is use the high level DML to specify their request to their Dbms to retrieve the data. Next is the structure of Dbms. So in that diagram, the structure of Dbms is mainly here. The DDL, end users, applications, DDL compiler, DML compiler, query optimizer, store data manager, data files, and compile DML command as well as data dictionary is mainly presented here. So what is the main function of data manager? It is mainly used to convert the operation in the user queries. Means coming the application programs or a combination of DML compiler and query optimizer, which is known as query processor, from users logically view or physically file system also. It can control the database information access that is stored in a disk also. It is also synchronize the simultaneous operations performed by concurrent users, as well as it can control the backup and recovery operations. See here the importance of data dictionary. So data dictionary is mainly helps in the documenting the database design, as well as it helps in the searching the views of database definitions. Means those views are mainly help to searching the results, as well as it provides the great assistance in processing a report of which data elements, means that data value is used in the program, as well as it can be promotes the data independence, that is the addition or modification of structure in, in the database application program are not affected. Data files are mainly used to data portion of database. Compile DML means what? It is convert the high level queries into low level file access. So that command is known as the compile DML. And users means they are we can see here already. End users means those person who are interact with the applications directly, means they are not responsible to insert, delete and update the data in the database, as well as they can get the information from the system as when required. The different types and of the end users are, and we can see there. See here in that summary we can see the what is the database. Database is a collection of programs. It enables to store, modify and extract the information of database. uh, there is a five services of that Dbms, that is transaction management, concurrency control, recovery management, as well as security management and language interface. Applications of Dbms is mainly used in banking, airlines, universities, or credit card transaction, finance, sales, manufacturing, web-based services, and human resources also. What are the drawbacks of file system? Data redundancy and inconsistency, integrity problem, atomicity problems, security problems, and so on. After that, we can see the abstraction level. There is mainly the three abstraction levels are presented. First is physical level, second is logical, and last one is view level or a external level. Then we can see the database users. There is mainly the three database users. First is the application programmer, second is end users, and third one is database administration. The end users has also mainly the two types, natives and sophisticated users. After that, we can see the DDL and DML command. DDL means what? The data definition language. It is mainly used to create and destroy the data with database objects. DML means what? The data manipulation language. It is used to change the data in the database table. Next is metadata. Metadata means what? It is mainly defined as a data is mainly provided or providing the information about one or more aspects of the data. Thank you so much. We can see the another chapters